Okay, I just want to record a message for those who are affected by the 1080 poisoning around New Zealand, the chemical weapons attacks over the last month that have been forced, despite my being in court arguing that Ardern, the Queen and Reddy used their powers to completely halt the poisoning program because it's devastating to human health, as well as mass torturing animals all across our bush. And it's not just the animals, you know, it's soaked into the soil, the plants, the tree roots, kauri dieback. It's spread by air drift, it kills the water, and water is life. But you know, it is definitely being inflicted on the human inclusive ecosystem. So I wanted to say that when I was poisoned last year, and the effects of this poisoning last for a really long time, obviously, because it's killing and torturing your cells to death. And it's incredibly painful. Painkillers just do not work. You are living in extreme pain. And I was poisoned by a state-paid health worker, by the DHB, who are the people who sign off this program. Anyway, nothing worked. I went to the doctors, there was no remedy for the poison. And I discovered a remedy that had been designed to heal the animals of 1080 poisoning, because we've been poisoned for so long. Someone very amazing developed a remedy for the animals, and high value animals. And so it was a herbalist mix, and it was just brilliant. I was rid of symptoms within a week, and came back a little bit, and this remedy just completely got rid of it. It was a tonic, a herbalist tonic. It was a complete mix of products for human consumption. So it was a herbalist tonic and a really intense cream, which I have been using to sustain the EMF attacks I've had, which literally bruise and enlarge your brain. And that has been deliberately inflicted, because obviously I've been writing legal arguments to the court, and it actually, like, it feels like I've had a lobotomization. Like, it's quite hard to even talk coherently. I healed once, and on track to healing again, but it's a complete tack out. So dangerous. You know, these weapons are definitely around. They're just not really promoted, and they're definitely being used in this country. EMF frequency bursts through the phone line, shot at you from helicopters, and through Google Book as well. I've had to put away my Google Book. They've got some weird frequency shit going on with that Google Book. Bezos. Bezos, think about Bezos quite a lot, actually. Seems to come to mind quite a lot. Wonder if he's thinking about me. Funny. Okay, so I just struggling to talk right now, but that's my message, is that, and trust me, in all of my life, I've never struggled to talk, but when your brain is swollen, it's quite hard. But that's my message. Because I've been a week without my special cream. But there is a remedy to this. There's a tonic and a cream that none of the doctors can give you. It's a herbalist mix, and I don't make it. I just found it because of my research into my case against 1080 to stop them from inflicting this program. So, I mean, for those of you who haven't followed my last videos or don't know what's going on in New Zealand, there's a chemical weapons program that has been systematically run. It's an extermination program. There's, you know, all sorts of disease cover narratives that have been given to describe the effects of this poison, but we have a cocktail of the world's most deadly poisons that are being spread indiscriminately throughout our ecosystem and into our water, and the government's saying it's to protect birds and kill possums. It's like Goebbels' big lie. This is like Nazi Germany. Or it's like, I call it the Fourth Reich, because this is a chemical extermination of a population, and for those who don't toe the line and put up a little bit of opposition against this chemical extermination of our population to divest and demoralise and forcibly transfer the countryside population to the city by 2030 for the UN Agenda 21 biodiversity plan, we get stung with EMF bursts through our phone that literally completely bruise and poison your brain. It's unbelievable, you know. Anyway, I will recover, but in the meantime, other people are suffering the poison effects right around the country, and it's devastating. I've been there. Twice I've been there. because I came back to this country having fought all around the world against industrial destruction of major ecosystems, and and interpreting the Rome Statute against environmental destruction for the first time in the world. And I have 7 cases now accepted for review by the International Criminal Court on interpreting the Rome Statute against environmental destruction. And it just so happened that applying that case to New Zealand was perfect. But that has been enduring through the New Zealand courts, where I've argued for an injunction to stop all the drops around the country since May, without success. But it did, by force of the claim, stop a lot of the drops for many months, and has triggered other groups to help continue to compound the pressure against those drops going forward. So a lot of drops have been halted or stalled still, and but unfortunately Taupo and Turangi were attacked. The West Coast has been attacked at least twice, maybe 3 times. Otago and Canterbury were due. New Zealand, Auckland and Wellington are due, Northland, Taranaki, all over the country. It's scheduled all over the country. We were scheduled for a chemical extermination, and the quantities dropped last year alone were enough to kill 50 million people. The quantities this year were promoted by Zip to be double the dose. And the quantities advertised were, in one area, 6 kg a hectare for 12,000 hectares, which was enough to kill 2.4 million people, just in one drop. And these drops are scheduled right across the country. And it was amazing, because I was talking to my mum this morning, and she described her first 2 pregnancies. Now, I'm 40, so we're talking about a pregnancy 51 years ago for my oldest brother. And the government prescribed that she take fluoride because it was promoted to her as good for the fetal development, fluoride. And she started feeling really, really sick. And then she had her second child a year later, and she was taking it again, fluoride. And her kidneys were aching. She was really being poisoned. And so Dad read in the paper at that time, this is 50 years ago, the second baby. Dad read in the paper at that time that fluoride was put in the water of the people at World War II to slowly poison them to death. The prisoners, put in the water of the prisoners. So fluoride is put en masse in our water. I would love to know if that's also since 1953, the same date as the Queen came to reign in New Zealand. Because it's a chemical extermination of the population. There's no mistake that they used to sell asbestos in boxes and call it white snow. This is arguably, look, I go back to this all the time. My argument to the International Criminal Court is that since 1953, a chemical extermination has been run on this population, and the Queen came to reign in 1953 as our head of state. Now, how many of the Commonwealth countries are suffering this same thing? Certainly Australia is. Certainly America was once a British colony, and the FDA, a couple of weeks after I took my case against the Queen, Ardern and Reddy, to the New Zealand courts in May, the NRDC took a case against the EPA, against Trump for using approving a nerve toxin to spray across all of the fruit and vegetables in America. And I always say that Trump is, he's on the same team as Clinton. You've got to understand that in order to commit this crime, they control both sides of the war. They control they stage the opposition. They own it, And I know I'm going to get such flack for this, but I had a very clear vision about .com yesterday, about his wife and he being prepared back into politics. So I'd love to see if that happens for this coming election. Because if it does, it was very clear that he was being prepped by the same people who control the other side of this. Might be wrong. Might be another election away. But if he comes to life for this next election, there's no doubt in my mind what it is, It's an extradition, an avoidance of extradition deal, But who knows? We'll see. Could be suffering lobotomization by government order and not seeing clearly, but I don't think so. So, and the other vision I had was that all the independent small producers, food producers, are targeted right now, and those who are bottling water are targeted right now. So for buy-ups, sort of with gun to their head, they're being forced to give up their companies or sell out. So that, of course, made me realise as well, that, of course, if you're poisoning all the supply and then you control all the production, then you control the system. Of course, you can't not control, if you need to control the production and the supply. So it makes sense that that they're being targeted at the moment. And Graham Hart, interestingly, just brought two production factories, and that does relate to the fact that Ross Townsend used to talk a lot about depopulation when he worked for Carter Holt Harvey and worked with me on my milk deal where they financed me for $50 million. It's a very interesting set of coincidences there. Certainly, there are a group of people in New Zealand who absolutely know this crime is occurring. There are a group of people who are advantaging it. But it's absolutely wrong, you know. I don't know what kind of thinking has them believing that mass torturing all of nature to death is by any way the right solution. I mean, there are 1,000 other better choices, thousands and thousands of other better choices. This is a distribution problem. If you cleaned up the money system, if you issued a second Reserve Bank body corporate, and that enabled a local control over our money supply that was invested in financing farmers through the crash of this, reconciling this crime of poisoning, and investing in the public development needs, the city needs, the infrastructure needs that we need right now. It would be interest-free, debt-free. It would create prosperity. Absolutely. There's no history where you have increased the money supply in a country and it has not propelled the economy. It without fail propels the economy. You know, you're providing cash in hand to people who go out and create and contribute, meaningfully contribute to society and create supply that people have money to buy for demand. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It grows and grows and grows. But we're not promoted that because we run an austerity economy by this government who are going to deliberately crash our economy before 2030. This is the end of capitalism. This is the end of democracy already, and it's the end of capitalism. They will, by 2030, deliberately crash our economy. They will say that they've got no money. It's an absolute lie, of course. They can extend the money supply as they wish, but technically, because our body corporate currently is in control of international hands, and arguably the same people who are inflicting this poison program on us and austerity at the same time, so that we're a demoralised population. So when they come along with food stamps and handouts from the UN, because we've had all these HARP created, and look up HARP, the machine, the EMF frequency machine, weather modification technology. So we've had all these HARP created disasters, and we've got a poisoned countryside. So when the supermarkets shut down because of these, and we'll probably get an EMF burst. So they have used such a range of EMF technology on me that I'm fairly certain we are going to get an EMF burst. So back up your computers. They'll test it on us. They'll do an EMF burst. What that means is that they'll cut out the electricity. Now within 3 days of that, your supermarket will run out of food. So what will you do? People will go to the bush. People will go to the bush for forage for food, but you'll be drinking poisoned water. If they drop the poison in the Hanuas, if they drop the poison in the Rimatakas, the cities will be drinking poisoned water. Only the people with access to bottled water. Look in your supermarkets. They've removed Evian. They've removed all of the imported water. You can't get it anymore. You can only get poisoned New Zealand water in the supermarket. Do you know why? Because it's a chemical extermination of our population. Because the pap poison to kill the cats, you just need to breathe that in. Death by inhaling the fumes. How many children are at similar level to the cats? They're going to be walking around and sniffing this shit, and overnight they'll just die. They'll feel really sick. They won't be able to explain it. You'll think you might rush to the hospital, or you might think they've come down with a fever and put them to bed. They'll die overnight. That's PAP, the poison for cats. That's the psychotics Ardern and Sage wanting to poison cats. The goddess of fertility. It's a terrible idea. Psychotic. People are very upset about the Yulin Dog Festival in China. Well, that's just a few dogs for a set period of time. In New Zealand, we're exterminating all cats by torture poisons and children at the same time because we'll breathe it. You know, yesterday in the paper there was the Titirangi chickens, apocalyptic scenes of poisoned chickens. You know, every day I'm reading articles, old articles. All the bees have been poisoned. All the trout have been poisoned. They are poisoning our ecosystem. Everyone should be fucking absolutely terrified right now. See that smiling photo of James Shaw, Ardern and Winston in the paper yesterday, and it just makes me feel ill because they knowingly, chemically exterminating this population. You cannot spread Britificum right through the ocean, 1080 monofluoroacetate right through the rivers and streams that run out into the ocean, poison our trout first, then poison all the ocean food. I said to Mum this morning, she said she was going to have salmon for dinner. Don't have it. If you source that salmon from water that has had bradifficum or 1080 poisoning, you can die overnight. Heart attack, gone. You know, we spoke about my niece who had a stroke in Taupo, 24 years old, healthy 1-year-old or 2-year-old baby. I should know that. But because of the bioaccumulation of the poison in Lake Taupo, of the 1080 poisoning of the pesticides, this is what happens when pesticides can't be metabolized anymore. It bioaccumulates, turns into a toxic algae. They promote that it gives respiratory failure, but what they fail to promote, it also gives heart failure. A lot of strokes, a lot of young mums will be developing their fetuses. There was an amazing doctor called Dr. Scanlon who used to talk about the dangers of 1080 at the World Health Organization on fetal deformities, and the fact that we've failed the HNSO standards in New Zealand because we have not measured the bioaccumulation, the effect over time of this toxicity on the reproductive organs. Well, we have in a way. You also read in the paper yesterday that Māori have a disproportionately high rate of breast cancer, especially after having children. Now, that's exactly what an endocrine disruptor chemical does. Look up the research. There's so many scientific papers published on this, that the endocrine disruptor chemicals will cause breast cancer, ovarian cancer, prostate cancer, bowel cancer. You know? They are deliberately dropping this through our ecosystem, and Ardern is telling you it's safe because Helen Clark started this program. Helen Clark's her mentor. She's Clark's protege. She's there to run this killing program, and she is running it, determined. I argued in court to stop her. She argued against me and won. Well, so far. Because, you know, I'm still in process in the New Zealand courts without giving any detail away, and you know, my route of appeal, if the New Zealand courts continue to fail to protect the population, is the International Criminal Court. So International Criminal Court doesn't replace the national judiciary, it just steps in if the national judiciary are unable or unwilling to prosecute or investigate the crime. You know, this crime should be stopped. We should be put in a state of emergency. This country is under attack. So, you know, if we don't reconcile this crime, and like, if all these drops, you know, a lot of the drops, as I said, have been held off, first by my claim, then other groups like iwi have stepped in. There's 2 iwi groups that I know of. Definitely Northland was already in process, but one down in Taranaki, I believe, and or near to it, and the Lugate drop, which my injunction application to the High Court on July 17th stopped from happening on the 19th, and then on the 23rd, the International Criminal Court, July 23rd, the International Criminal Court accepted the case for review based on that, the judge's orders that was given at that time. But that drop, as I understand it, has been pushed back. The zip predator-free drop on the West Coast has been pushed back till next year. So a lot of the councillors have realised their criminal liability involved in these drops because the International Criminal Court is reviewing the conduct of the crime. And a lot of the drops have been paused, but the ones on the West Coast, anything to do with the Waikato Council, the Waikato is somehow really involved in this. Don't want to mention Ross Townsend's name again, but he certainly is very aware of this crime, in my opinion. And God, it's a bit of a personal mention, Ross. Hope you're well. But you know, there are a whole lot of people aware of this, and they think depopulation is the right choice. They think that we are modelling the solution for the world, and it's happening now. It's fucking terrifying. If it's not stopped by court order, we'll be chemically exterminated. No one can handle, and you know, this EMF stuff is really concerning because I know how it's affected me. I've got a perfectly operating brain, excuse my bias, and I've never ever had headaches or any problem now. And since the 2 very clear EMF bursts targeting my brain, it's fucking terrible. It's been this month, you know, definitely targeted. And that has me concerned because they are planning on introducing 5G poles all around our streets. And I need to check how far advanced they are in that. But those 5G poles have the power to give those EMF bursts. And there's an application, and I must check again what it's called, but it is developed in partnership with the UN, and it can track you from your phone to every 3 meters every 3 meter block, so it can track you, so it would know exactly the 3 meters I'm standing in now, right around the world. So they know exactly where every individual is right around the world. As they increase their connectivity, you notice with your apps, you have to sign into Google, or you have to sign into Microsoft, and so that's all connected. You can't be online without this massive connection through your phone and your computer and your personal identification and giving over your phone number. And so they can completely connect you electronically, track you, know exactly where you are every 3 meters, and then they're sticking these 5G poles on our streets that have the frequency capability to do what they've done to me twice this month, and that is put a frequency burst, like target you with a frequency burst that just explodes your brain, basically. It's fucking terrifying, but that's happening right now. So what this all combines into, if you think the fluoride in the water, the 1080 brodifacoum, PAP, I think it's pindone or something similar. There's one starting with D. There's like 5 of the most extremely hazardous toxic poisons being indiscriminately spread en masse throughout our ecosystem. I've got an Official Information Act in to doc. I've had it in for a while to understand exactly the quantities of each poison they've spread in each area at what times over the past years, because that will evidence a bioaccumulation toxicity level that is just so far outside any conceivable, acceptable standard. It's just fucking insane, and these people are insane, and they're running our government, our state, our judiciary, our crown, to the extent that I've been through this process so far. So this is Agenda 21, as I said, biodiversity plan. We are arguably the model state. Clinton came here and did give that speech that we would be the model that the world would follow, and we are being chemically exterminated. We are under EMF targeting frequency, and they will, if those 5G poles get installed on our streets and all our phones have to upgrade to that, they'll be able to take people out just by doing what they've done to me. I will survive, but it's fucking terrifying. And I don't know what to say. But, I've had people emailing me already saying that they're sick from these drops. And it's there's no antidote. Nothing that the doctor can give you will work. But this herbalist mix, let me know if you're interested. And it is expensive at the moment, but that's because the product is difficult to source, hard to access, and the quantities are low. But I guess the price would go down if more people started buying it, and arguably the whole country should be on it because we've all been deliberately poisoned by our government. We are reliant on those in power, some of them being on the right side of this and fighting to stop it, using my claim to stop it. That is, in my opinion, our fighting chance. But obviously, I'm asking them to stop a program that is well entrenched, that reconciliation of this program will crash the economy. If a second body corporate Reserve Bank is extended, as I argue it can be under the Act, there's exclusivity on the current Reserve Bank having dollars and notes, but there is not exclusivity. It doesn't provide them exclusivity on the actual body corporate. That's a loophole. They've made a mistake on that. They just assumed the body corporate that they'd be the only one, but they can't because the legislation doesn't say that. So we can have a second body corporate, and I've argued that to the court across 2 of my cases so far. And if we do that, if we issue a second body corporate, then we have control of our own currency, a currency interchangeable with the NZD. I designed this a long time ago, actually. The currency I designed is called USA. It was like Unite, Empower, Enable, Sustainable Adaptation. And that would allow us to extend currency to get through this crash. Now we could then rebalance and remediate the ecosystem within 7 years. Maybe we could be back to a state of pure food and water. It's possible. There's fungi technologies that can clean the water. Fungi treatments, all our rivers, lakes and streams could be healed really, really quickly if we had a government who wanted that. We don't. We have a government who want to kill us by poison. And someone said to me last night, your message is too extreme. And my response is like, no, my message is truthful. Unless people wake up and start to understand that we've been chemically exterminated, that so much poison is being inflicted on our ecosystem that we cannot survive this, then by 2030, many, many people would have died. You'll get sepsis. You'll get the flu. You'll get pneumonia. You know, yesterday they were predicting it in the paper. PwC's already done the budget for it. You know, this is premeditated murder. Mass murder. It's a premeditated genocide. That is what the International Criminal Court is reviewing. Deliberately inflicting conditions of life upon the national population that bring about their physical destruction, in whole or in part, over time. It's not about murder within 1 year and 1 day, like the New Zealand law puts it. This is about bioaccumulation of toxicity that is giving heart attacks, strokes, cancers of the reproductive organs, sterility. Whoever's not sick and moved to the countryside by 2030, will have suffered one of these terrible, agonizing deaths by poison, and they'll call it all sorts of other names, you know? And how would you know? Most people don't know. Like the titteringy apocalyptic chickens in the paper yesterday that really made me laugh. That's us. You know, that's our ecosystem. They've been poisoned in our ecosystem. This is so toxic. It spreads by air drift and bees pollinating our food and mosquitoes injecting it directly into our bloodstream. The animals die all over the bush, everywhere. They're going to spread this in Waiheke. There's going to be dead animals everywhere. They'll be dying. The maggots die. They don't break down properly. The mosquitoes will sting them. They'll go and inject the shit into your children. It's poisoning children. It's torturing animals and poisoning children. A little bit of collateral damage with adults along the way, and I must say there's a few adults I don't mind if they're poisoned. Just being honest. But doing this to children and destroying their ecosystem for the future, and you know, we don't have the right to do this. It's a very bad plan. Bad plans should be abandoned. It's not the right choice. There are so many. If we were in control of our money system, we could have generate an amazing economy within a year and a half. Within 7 years, well, maybe because of the poisoning, not so quickly, but we would survive. And within 7 years, we could have the biggest economy in the world, because we were not under austerity as the rest of the countries are being put under war or austerity. And the world deserves a better plan. The world deserves another way forward. A lot of people don't yet understand this crime, but as you come to understand it, because you see people, either because my claim stops it and the people in charge get honest, or because you see people around you dying suddenly of all sorts of 6-week instant cancers and heart attacks and strokes and illnesses that came out of nowhere and pneumonia that kills them. It's 1080 poisoning. Our government, Jacinda Ardern, is deliberately doing this. She is responsible for this crime. She is under review by the International Criminal Court for this crime. My application through the New Zealand courts, although heavily obstructed, alleges her criminal liability for this crime. And she's doing it. She's spreading the poison en mass quantities, capable to kill millions and millions of people. You know, there's no question what is happening here. It's just that people have a blindness. You know, we're populist politics. I saw some of the new National Party campaigns for the Parliament yesterday for the new election. I just thought, they're turning politicians into celebrities. That's not a job of a politician. A politician's supposed to have a vision to lead the country, not a media, it's like a tuba actor doing appealing campaigns. Probably have no idea how the economy runs. No, they're poisoning people to death. They're withholding your money supply. They're deliberately crashing the economy. I heard Ardern talk about a sugar tax. If you put taxes under every major element in the economy, you're going to skyrocket inflation and crash the economy. They're deliberately crashing the economy. They've got austerity, not extending the money supply to adequate levels for public needs. And on the other hand, they are putting all these taxes up, which put the prices up of every commodity in the country so that most can't afford it. And they will. This is the end of, if this crime is not stopped, it's the end of capitalism by 2030. Too much to explain on a video, and my brain is seriously damaged from what they did this week. I'm in real pain, but I shall recover. And I'll do a more coherent video once I'm back to normal. And better slept without 10 helicopters flying over my house last night. Thanks very much. Anyway, okay. It's a bit of a surreal existence at the moment, but we will survive. And if you need the herbalist mix that I'm talking about, completely natural products, if you're suffering the effects of 1080, I can link you to the supplier. And it should really help relieve the effects that you're feeling. And in my experience, nothing in the normal nothing that a doctor will give you will help relieve the pain, or well, apart from morphine, I guess, but none of the standard products will help you at all. Okay, that's my message. Okay, see ya.